Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I'm Gary, your host. And this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. This time, I want to take a look at this book, which is Wild Animals, #1, PC Comics. That's a P, PC Comics, 1982. And this is fun. This is issue 1, and as far as I know, the only issue. I doing some research, I couldn't find any other issues of it. And PC Comics, which stood for Pacific Comics, an alternative publisher from the 80s. Did some other things. Here in Wild Animals #1, it is, the whole issue is edited by Scott Shaw, and he also wrote and drew the lead story in here, featuring it says here, featuring the return of You-All Gibbon, the junk food monkey. And I like this cover here. The illustration is done by Scott Shaw. It is kind of a composite creature, and he's got on his luggage Seuss City, so it's representing a kind of creatures you'd see in Dr. Seuss. He's not in the book at all. None of this is. And then you see all this variety of other funny animal characters, anthropomorphic, and here it says blah, 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 blah. It doesn't say that. It says anthropomorphic antics of funny fauna. And goes, well, there goes the neighborhood when he walks in. It's Scott Shaw. Oh, I love Scott Shaw. Now, Scott Shaw is probably best known in comicdom for having created and co-created and drawn Captain Carrot and his Amazing Zoo Crew. There's Captain Carrot right there. Or at least my interpretation of him. And his main character in this is You-All Gibbons. Now, this is well, there's a junk food monkey in the land that time ignored, and I laugh at. Of course, this is 82, but it was originally written and drawn for, I think it said 78. So it's a couple years. It was, and this is the finishing of a storyline that was begun by Scott Shaw with in Quack. Quack from the 70s, which is an underground funny animal comic book published by Star Reach. And this concludes the story. And it and with the other creators and stuff, this is basically the same thing. And it is, except for foul language or anything, not having any. That is, it's basically an underground funny animal comic. And You-All Gibbons. Now, if you're not old enough to remember who You-All Gibbons is, because You-All Gibbon is based on, a parody of Euell Gibbons. Euell Gibbons was I guess he was some kind of natural food expert or something like that. I don't remember exactly. In the 70s, and he was in all those grape nuts commercials. And he would come out and he would say, "Did you know part of a pine tree is edible?" And they stopped all that when the guy died from a heart attack. Because he was always saying how all this food is so healthy and, certain foods, and then didn't do him any good. And there are other characters like that in here. Okay, Wild Animals is a tribute funny animal comic from Scott Shaw, concluding a story begun in Quack from Starreach. It's an alternative / underground funny animal comic from the mid-70s. And Scott Shaw, he was born in 51. He's still around as a cartoonist. I talked about him in various depths before, but this is just a kind of a brief reintroduction for him. He's a cartoonist, animator, and comics historian. He worked on Hanna-Barbera projects in comics and animation. He created Captain Carrot and his amazing Zoo Crew at DC. And he worked on Simpsons comics, The Simpsons comics at Bongo Comics. And was the first Sonic the Hedgehog artist at Archie Comics. And this is a lot of fun, unless you just utterly hate the anthropomorphic funny animal stuff, as some people do, just despise it. I like them, among other things, because my tastes are eclectic. It runs the entire gamut of comics. And I think it's a lot of fun. Here in the back cover, some funny stuff. An animal interpretation of all the presidents up to that time, up to Ronald Reagan. So, take a little look inside here. I'll briefly go through this. The storyline, as I said, started in Quack as U-All Gibbon, and he, as a thing, he has made a friend of a monster who is Dogzilla, and became his adopted pet. And another character in the story is Pointer S. Toxin, and it's based on Hunter S. Thompson, who was the Gonzo journalist in the 60s and 70s. Of course, he's dead now too. Had involved a lot of drugs. Had movies, but Johnny Depp played him. Anyway, this is Dr. Pointer S. Toxin, and he has a writing assignment to go find Pigfoot, the myth, cryptid creature in the wilds, and he took along with him U-All Gibbon, his nephew, Buffalo Chimps. Oh, geez, these puns. And they went out into the woods to find him and didn't come back. So U-All and Dogzilla have gone out to track him down, track them down. And this is where our story picks up. He's entered the trail. It goes into a cavern. He follows him in there. Dogzilla can't follow, and goes through. And then when he comes out the other side, it's boom, the land that time ignored. Goes leaping lizards, and it's just crammed full of dinosaurs and other prehistoric critters. Oh my gosh! And he screams, and he looks, and he starts being chased by dinos. This one scoops him up in his mouth. He puffs on his pipe a little bit, and then he smokes himself out. He makes him sneeze him. So then he runs into Lord Lizard, who is a Tarzan-like character. And he is like the Lord of the Jungle. He's Lord Lizard, and it briefly describes him. Then we cut to Toxin and Chimps. And they are tied up and prisoners of Pigfoot. But there is not just a single Pigfoot. They are primitive boars of the Stone Age era, and they have a little village there, and they're tied up there. But then we see there's someone controlling them, and it's Toshiro Babuni, a Japanese filmmaker of monster movies, giant monster movies, who somehow has discovered this hidden valley and has this giant robot of King Kitch for King Kong. Oh, it is a giant robot. And they think he is a god, and now he's there to be sacrificed to the god. Meanwhile, Gibbon and Lord Lizard, they're trying to find them, and Lord Lizard helps him. They all kinds of lots of goofy events and gags, sight gags and verbal gags. And finally they get there to the Pigfoot camp and bust him out. Meanwhile, one of the Bigfoot's guards comes up behind him and smacks him on the head with with a club. So they're all captured. Now they're about to be sacrificed to King Kitch. And he's off running the thing. But in the process, they had all these... He brought all these Bombasto burgers to feed all the Pigfoots, and the scent wafts onto the other side of the outside the valley to Dogzilla, and he follows his nose. You come face to face, so it's Dogzilla versus King Kitch. Oh, funny! And they go to it, go smack him. But in the process of the fight, the battery, and you can just faintly see it here. It's just a regular battery. Falls out of the giant robot, and it collapses and Dogzilla had saved them, and they rushed through the tunnel, got out just as the tunnel collapsed as a result of the fight between Dogzilla and King Kitch. So the Lord Lizard and Dogzilla become fast friends, and they make Toshiro Babuni serve them. Oh, and that was the end of the Uall Gibbon story and I have the other installations, chapters of the story somewhere in one or two of those quack comics. And the rest of it is mostly single and double paged comic gags. I don't know who this creator was, but did a one-page gag, then did a page of just spoof, satire, funny animal type of comic covers. I guess it's all part of the story, and I don't get it. Then we have Lackluster Lizard, which is a one-issue thing, which I like this, and by Jim Engels. Jim Engels' Weird City Studio. And this is a character, Lackluster Lizard, and he's, oh great, I'm finally off the notebook. I'm actually in a real comic book. And then the narrator's talking, and they gab, and I noticed. I remember the first time I read this, said, oh, this lizard, he kind of reminds me of the Von Baudet lizards. And he's getting out griping, and then right at the end, the narrator, the cartoonist, whatever, hands him a costume of a Von Baudet lizard suit, and he has to get in that. And if you did, Von Baudet, underground cartoonist from the 60s and 70s, I just loved his stuff. Then we have Bronte, the Ducky Duckbill in orange sauce. And Ducky is a hadrosaur, duckbill dinosaur. But this is done by Larry Gonick. Now, Larry Gonick I've covered before because he did the great Cartoon History of the Universe, which started out as, and I guess it was an underground comic book, but it was just going through the entire the history of the universe, quite literally, at the beginning. And of course, the first issue is just about the what we knew. Of course, remember, it's over 40 years old now, so a lot of this stuff that he had in there, both scientific and historical, are outdated. But it was a great project, and have I don't know how many single issues they had, and then I think about 4 collected volumes that I know of, and I think I've got all of those. And in my opinion, if it had some corrections of some of the history and some of the science from the time, I think it should be mandatory reading in both middle and high school for history, because it's better than I think any of the history textbooks that I read in school. Anyway, this is Ducky, and some come out. He's supposedly befriended by his big T-Rex and hauled off into the forest. And although he's initially suspicious, it gets to her. It's that T-Rex and his or her mate sitting there waiting, because they're ready for dinner, ready to have this duckbill hadrosaur as a dinner, as their dinner, and manages to talk himself out of the thing, and it's all funny. More single-page gags, funny animal gags, various creators, Bungalow Bill, another Jim Engel. But this is what I really like. It's a short story. This is Sergio Aragonés, and it's a little story. It's a short story about this group of a troop of apes somewhere in the jungle, and a baby is born, and he grows. But he doesn't grow that much. His whole life he's small and short, and he's bullied until finally they boot him out of the troop, and he's all so sad, and he's going to go away. He gets on a log and goes out to sea till he finally comes to an island, and he's living on the island, but he's lonesome. There's lots of hazards and stuff. But he's all alone there by himself on the island, and he hears drums, dum, 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 dum. He follows the sound of the drums, and it's a wall and a sacrifice. He's King Kong, because he was the short and puny one. Oh, and then a couple others. It's all good fun. I love that, and I hope you could too. So that's all I've got for you this time with Wild Animals #1 from PC Comics, 1982. Some great Scott Shaw, Larry Gonick, Sergio Aragonés, all heroes, comic cartoonist heroes of mine, as well as others who I'm less familiar with, but I do hope you enjoyed that. So please like, share, and subscribe, and leave your comments down below. Do you just hate, with a purple passion, funny animals? Let me know that. If you love funny animals, let me know that. If you can take them or leave them, let me know that too. So remember, comics are art.